Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Market Snapshot series. Today, we'll be talking about the top market events that are expected to be moving the markets this week. So, there is quite a number. Of course, we all know this is the non-farm payrolls week. So, from the calendar, we have quite a number of things happening. On Monday, we don't have anything major happening. So it basically means that this is a pretty slow day, so technical analysis takes the forefront. So we'll be having the ISM manufacturing PMI data coming up at 6 p.m. Then later on, after we move on to Tuesday, we'll be watching the retail sales data at 3:30 a.m. Then later on, we'll have the Bank of Japan Governor Ueda speaking. Then fast forward GDP from Australia, Swiss franc will be having the CPI, then ADP non-farm employment change, which will be a leading indicator of what we expect later in the week. Then fast forward, we'll be having the Euro Summit on Thursday. And of course, one of the major decisions we expect in the week is the ECB rate decision. This will be happening on Thursday, the 6th of March, where we expect a rate cut from 2.9% to 2.65%. Then fast forward, we'll be having our non-farm payrolls on Friday. So what's different from the previous non-farm payrolls is that Trump has fired a lot of people. So from the government books, we'll be expecting a lot of people who lost their jobs, especially from the USAID closure. So at this point, we'll be expecting a much smaller number. So in the previous month, the US economy created 143K jobs. We're expecting 156K. But now that we're expecting that a lot of people drop their jobs, we'll be hoping or watching a much smaller number. And of course, we know what the reaction will be. So this is not new information. It's something that we know, the whole market knows. So we could be seeing the market reacting to this way ahead of the eventual announcement on Friday. So overall, when you think of the non-farm payrolls and how they impact the markets, we know that high unemployment basically works bad for the dollar. And of course, there is the issue of low employment jobs or unemployment numbers. So in this case, we expect that the Fed is really being pressured by Trump to cut interest rates. So knowing that the high unemployment will lead to more pressure on cutting rates, then overall we expect the dollar to be weak. And that may have just started as early as today as we head into the NFP day, which will be on Friday. So checking on the comment section, I want to thank Maureen for joining and shout out for being the first to join and comment. So hi Maureen, hi Rono, I can see Ibzan in the house, Dennis Mwangi, MBH, the BT, and thank you guys for joining. So clearly, it's a very much technical week, meaning that markets will be mostly free rolling unless there is something to change the outcomes. So we'll be observing the technicals most of the time. We don't have like any major announcements, but as we have seen since the year started, the whole markets have been driven by Trump. So if he has any announcements, any speeches of whatever kind, we know this has had some impact in the markets. So judging by that, we'll be trading very carefully, watching closely to anything that he updates, especially the negotiations between Russia and Ukraine, trying to understand that things might work and get better. So with that in mind, so let's try and understand where are the basic opportunities in the markets. Of course, the number one opportunity we have for today is gold. Gold is making some really good recovery. So far from Friday's big sell-off, we have seen gold make an impressive recovery. So as per now, what we're expecting is for the market to retest the day's high. And this is one level that the market already touched. This happened earlier in the morning. So even before the day started, you can see the big jump that happened with gold. So the level I have marked here, if you check the 4-hour chart, this was the previous bottom. If you do the 1-hour chart, this was the previous support area. So now that gold is making an impressive recovery, then the overall expectation is that price at least get to this point, and this is still a significant amount. So here we are looking at 1,000 points, or basically 100 pips on the current price level, and it seems like the bulls are very strong this morning as we look at the open of the London session. So good chance that gold eventually gets to this point. So for Brent, we are seeing a very strong sell-off, not just on the hour, but also on the daily. So a very strong selling activity happening on the 1-hour chart. You can see the previous hour, but as we continue moving, we are already seeing signs of support coming in, and this could be happening as soon as the prior level. So the lowest price that we saw on Thursday last week could be our target for the day, as we look at the market now reversing, having formed a lower high. So you can see the highest price in the day is much lower than the previous one that we saw on Thursday. So good chance that we see the market testing here. So as for the prior gaps, we already saw the gaps happening on Euro USD and other major pairs. You can see that the market really attempted to cross the gap, hasn't happened yet. So we'll be expecting to see the gaps being crossed later in the week. But as for now, it seems like the buyers are coming in back strongly. So there's a good chance that we see the market bouncing from here and moving much higher. So in terms of the activity that we expect to see on Euro USD, of course, we had the prior support. So for now, if we break the day's high, then there's a good chance that we see the market moving towards 1.045. So it's the same thing for pound USD. Of course, we expect some good recovery happening here. So for the Australian dollar, we also expect the market to continue with the recovery. So last week, we had a very strong selling happening on Thursday and Friday. And now we are looking at recoveries. So for AUD/USD, there is a good chance that we see this price level. So we don't expect any major moves. So if you look at AUD/USD, this was happening as the previous support. And now that we are seeing the market making an impressive recovery, good chance we get to 0.62359. So as for the yen, we already discussed this last week on Friday, that the market would make some form of recovery from the current price levels. So we go to our target, and now that the market is dropping back again, then we have to really think about this particular resistance area. So we'll be looking at the market basically recovering from this strong rally and getting back to this area here. So as for the Nikkei 225 index, this is something we have been discussing. This is over 20 weeks of data where we have been expecting the market to be bouncing from here. So we had a breakout towards the lower side, and the market made an instant recovery. So for the short term, we expect at least a strong bounce towards this area here, with a potential extension to our prior target to 40,129 yen for one share. So good chance that after we got through this whole charade of sideways momentum, there was a fake breakout, and now the market is coming back. So on US equities, strong recoveries happening this week. So we are already seeing some strong recovery happening on the UT 100 or the Nasdaq 100 index. So from the strong bounce that happened towards the end of the day on Friday last week, now we expect this momentum to be maintained and at least the price to get to $21,347 per share. So for the US 30, we are still on progress towards the upper trend line. So good chance that we retest this trend line. US 500 or the Nasdaq, we are already maintaining this particular trend line here. So we'll be observing to see if there's a good break. And of course, we know that from the book pattern, if it breaks the trend line, then the target will be this area here. But it hasn't happened yet, so it's a wait and see kind of scenario. Russell 2000 also making an important test. So in this case, we are basically looking at this area here, which is potentially acting as the resistance. So we'll be watching to see if there's a breakout. And if it happens to breach this area here, then we'll be targeting the previous high. So it's not very far off, it's a cross distance. So we'll be watching to see if the market happens to break, and a good chance that we get to this area here. So as for Bitcoin, very strong performance over the weekend. We are seeing some super important recovery after the big sell-off that happened last week. So far, we have moved from over $79,000 per Bitcoin. So a very strong bounce from this area here. So far we have seen what this is. We are looking at $16,000 recovery since the bottom that we saw, and there's a good chance that the market keeps going higher. So now that we are looking at this, of course, we know that anyone who bought the bottom, they are probably taking some profit here. So good chance that we see some form of pullback and then continuation kind of setup. So we don't know exactly where the market will be bouncing, but we know that the trend is still bullish. So we'll be watching to see signs of buyers coming in and pushing the prices higher. So far, we remain patient and see where we find the bottom. So for New Zealand USD, clearly a very strong breakout from this particular trend line. We kept going down and down since last week. And now it seems more likely that we are seeing some form of bottom here. So if you look at the 1 hour chart or even the 15 minutes chart, then we know that this is some form of consolidation. So this is our kind of setup here. So we remain patient until something happens outside of this one. So good chance that we see some form of breakout. It hasn't happened yet. It's still a Monday, a very slow day. So we don't know what might happen, but if we are patient enough, we'll find an opportunity here. Checking on the comment section again. Hello, Dennis. I can see Ronald Hillary in the house. Maureen, Ibzan, All Sports TV, and Smith Effects. Thank you for joining. So we already have our first question in the house. What is the general expectation of WTI, at least for this week? So as I've said, since the year started, Trump has been super invested in making sure that oil prices keep going down. So far, what we are seeing with oil prices for WTI and for Brent is for prices to keep on moving downwards. And so far, we have already seen so much progress. So if you look at the daily time frame and you try to understand from when Trump was inaugurated as the president of the USA, all we have been seeing is a consistent move downwards. So the highest price that we saw in oil since the year started was on the 16th of January, and Trump was inaugurated on the 20th. So from this 16th, you can see the general movement has been downwards, and now we are looking at a prior level being retested again. So good chance that prices keep on moving downwards, perhaps even getting to $50 per barrel. So anytime we see a very strong momentum upwards in oil, that will represent an opportunity for going short on oil. So we'll be watching closely and looking at more shorting opportunities. And as per now, our projection is that the price at least retests the lowest prices we had last week, and that is 71.933. And this is for Brent oil. So there is usually an over 90% correlation between Brent and WTI. So we still expect to see the same momentum on WTI. So morning Smith effects. So as always, if you have your projections huge for Monday, we know it's not the very best day to be looking for opportunities. So we take it a bit much slower on Mondays, and then momentum picks up from Tuesday. So if I had to choose a chart for the day, that would be gold, and that is expected to continue with the rally, and at least we get to 28.78 per ounce of gold. So that's it for the day. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you for your patience. I hope to see you on the next session, and of course we'll have more data tomorrow. Enjoy the rest of your day, and of course I wish you a happy trading week.